clutch our pearls and laugh again. We all gather round, Kathy has a story to tell, our favorite comedian. Heifer, please, I don't have the free time unless you got the scoop again. Here for the gossip, rumor and innuendo. I will live for today until the endless heaven buffet takes me away.
Hey, 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 true crime friends. Guess who's here? Listen, if I was going to have this discussion, I absolutely had to have this discussion with the subject matter experts. That is Dr. Patrice Berry and Ravi from our Muslim phone a friend. Hi, ladies. Hi.
Hey.
Thanks so much for stopping by. So listen, for people who don't know about this case, I'm going to give like a quick rundown of the history and then we can jump into discussion. So this case takes place in Washington State, where Fatima, at the time of the incident, was 17 years old. She had a boyfriend that her parents did not agree with and did not like. Fatima's family is an observant Muslim family are they from Iraq or Iran? I don't remember. Iraq. Okay. So they're from Iraq and they were like, look, our daughter is out here wilding out, being a teenager. And she'd run away a couple of times. She was skipping school. And they decided to go back to Iraq and marry her off to an older gentleman because that was going to get her keep her in line or whatever it was supposed to do. And Fatima runs away. Fatima's dad and mom hunt her down. Her father finds her on the bus stop at school, jumps on her, and begins to choke her into unconsciousness. While that's happening, all the friends from the school are jumping and like attacking the dad for attacking Fatima. The police show up and the kids from the school have the dad pinned down. Fatima has run into the school for protection and safety. Fatima's mom follows the kids to the school, even though the mother has a protective order where she's not allowed to go on the school grounds. And so everybody gets arrested. Not everybody. The parents both get arrested and are charged with attempted murder. Fatima says, this is an honor killing. It was an attempted honor killing. My father has said he's going to do this terrible thing. And so obviously this is him trying to take me off the playing field. And so the state of Washington has charged the parents. The issue is that while everybody caught this attack on videotape, they didn't have any, I guess, like official statements of the parents saying, we're going to do this thing for this reason at this time. And so as soon as I saw this case, I needed to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it from the standpoint that was culturally sensitive and informed of the Muslim perspective. And so actually both Ravi and Dr. Patrice reached out to me at the same time. And I was like, who do I choose? Who do I choose? But Ravi won because she has a Muslim background. Sorry, Dr. Patrice.
and the video was phenomenal, Ravi. Like it was so helpful in my experience. So I attended a university to learn how to ethically integrate faith into practice. And so I'm a psychologist that happens to be a Christian, but I work with people across because I'm LGBTQ affirming. Like I'm not. So I don't market myself because when you think of a Christian psychologist, some people get stuck in their head about what that means. So I work with a lot of clients that are Muslim, that are atheists, that are across a religious spectrum, and then learning how to ethically make sure, because my thing is faith shouldn't hurt. And when you have to figure out if there is are people twisting things, and I don't determine that. I often have them go back to their religious community. So I have had people talk with their religious leader, and if that person wasn't safe, or if the religious leader was affirming harmful things, then I would have a problem. But thankfully I've never run into that. Like normally if somebody was thinking God's telling me to hurt myself or somebody else, their religious leaders were like, no, like that's not
right. Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. And so
all the way to the left.
Because I think with anything, with any belief system, we can sometimes twist it to our own will and to what we and to our own harmful past, our own harmful beliefs. And so being able to break that down, that's really important.
It's so meaningful. And because I personally, based on my own history, I hear Christian therapists and I'm like, uh-oh, your solution for every problem is going to be, oh, read the Bible or go to church or do some religious type thing. It's good to know that that distinction does not necessarily mean that thing.
So I'm a psychologist that happens to be a Christian. Like I'm not because I curse when it's clinically necessary, and so I don't. I am affirming of safe relationships, and so if a client is looking to separate, divorce, any of the, because it's the client's decision, but because there are therapists that their belief is that you should never leave a marriage, and I think they should disclose that. Like if you're gonna work with families, and if your system is like, I believe, no matter what, you should always stay. That should be discussed up front. And then there can also be things where, because a person can be a Christian counselor but not be licensed. Like there's, especially in Virginia, because so there's like pastoral counseling where they can call.
Oh.
So I've had people come to me and say, I did Christian counseling, and then I Google the person's name and I'm like, oh no, like they have no license. Like, like this was just like, they should have never been dealing with major depression. like, and so I really like these are topics that I'm passionate about.
So Ravi, both of us have given a little bit of our backgrounds. Can you tell the good people who did not see our first Phone a Friend Muslim edition a little bit about your background and how you approached this story? Where are you from? What's going on?
What's up? Who the hell am I? So I come from a very religiously diverse family, I would say. And I would say that like my grandparents' generation is the one where like the crazy faith crises happened, right? And so like, and not even a crisis, it wasn't like a bad thing. So like my grandmother, for instance, my mom's mom comes from a family where her mom and dad, so my great grandparents, were like, we love everybody. So they named every one of their children after somebody from a different religion. And so like my grandmother's older sister is Aisha. My grandmother's name was Sita. Her younger sister is Ashoka, who was a great emperor who's a Buddhist. Rustam from Zoroastrian tradition, and on down the thing. And they had 11 kids, so they kind of like were running out of religions at the end, to be honest. So they sort of circled back to Hinduism and stuff like that, which was funny because like it was a Christian family and they all went to church every Sunday, but like half the kids had Hindu names. The whole thing. And so
it's hilarious.
Then like my mom and dad's generation. So my dad comes from like a solidly Muslim family, right? But very progressive, very like, you know, it's all whatever. Nobody ever fasted during Ramadan. And these were like rural farmer types that are not like city folk, educated, you know, city folk necessarily, but they were like, you know, the food's too good. Why would we fast? You know, kind of thing. And my dad always tells this story, which again, like many of the stories that I tell may or may not be true, but who cares, right? These are family myths, is that he went off to boarding school when he was like 12 or 13. And he was like, oh, I should try this fasting thing. And so he fasted. And then he got so hungry, he broke into the kitchen at his dorm and ate all the ice cream and got horrendously sick and decided there was no God. Because how could you eat ice cream and get sick, right? Like, how could that happen? Like the whole like transaction, like the whole process. He's like, no, there can't be a God. This is nonsense, right? So he was very much an atheist. And so a very religiously mixed family. And I was fascinated by this because all of my great aunts and uncles, like they're Buddhists. There are like some of them are Buddhists and some of them are Quakers and some of them are this and some of them are that. And so like I also like identify as a Christian, But like Patrice was saying, I'm like, I go to a nice church where like everybody's great, you know, like it's a million different kinds of people. We're all doing good stuff and we're all trying to, you know, live a good life, find the Lord. And so, but yeah, so I'm like, whatever that like Diet Coke Muslim thing is, like if that's my parents' generation, like
Yes.
I'm over to the side, right?
Okay.
Like I may be like floating off into, you know, something else, but culturally very steeped in Muslim culture, right? And I think that's one of the things, like just to loop it back to the topic of discussion, and we touched on this a little bit in our last discussion, that like the kind of cultural experiences that a lot of Muslim families have had before they come here, sometimes they're not really able, and a lot of immigrant communities I think face this, where like there's the culture you came from and the things that made sense and were safe and promoted your happiness and safety back there, and then there's here, except America's the Wild West and you can be any kind of person you want. And so that is
For
very
sure.
unusual. Most other countries have a dominant religion and ethnicity, right? And there tends to be less diversity of social habits, right? And so,
Oh.
yeah, so like that also I think is part of what we're talking about. Like there's a lot of culture clash going
Hmm.
on. And I think the big thing that I have been thinking about a lot, actually, YouTube served me one of Dr. Patrice. We're going to call you Dr. Patrice because if we can call him Dr. John, I think we should call you Dr. Patrice because you went to grad school and you made it to the end, and so you should be called Dr. Patrice. But anyway, I was thinking about something that you had said on one of your interviews about how like sometimes people with narcissistic traits, it's because they had a really neglectful childhood and they needed to like
Hmm.
support themselves and right. And it really made me think about this mom, particularly because the dad can like himself, right? But like the mom who strikes me as like these are very wounded people, right? Like she struck me as like, which is
Yeah.
not an excuse,
Yeah.
but I've been thinking a lot about that, right? Of like how different for many of my cousins who come from Pakistan and India, how right, like America just seems wild, right? And it makes their parents really scared.
That
Um,
makes sense though, that like there's so much going on here,
yeah.
right? I mean, even if you take the three of us,
Mhm.
everybody sort of has a different religious background. I grew up in a very, very conservative Christian home, but my
Right.
wider family was more like Baptist for the most part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so even when I moved here to the Northeast, my family was terrified because they were like, in the Bible Belt, we know you're safe because
Right.
there's lots of good Christian folks around. And if you live out there, I jokingly refer to it as the godless Northeast, but legitimately, I
Yeah.
have
So people
relatives.
literally think that.
Yeah, yeah. I like one of the zip codes in one of the places where I lived ended in 666.
Oh.
And I had an aunt who was so freaked out and she wanted to send me cards and letters and stuff, but she wouldn't put the full zip code on because she just was like, that is of the devil and I can't. Mm-mm. Are you safe living there? And I'm like, it's the nicest place, not just like nice as in the people, the homes are nice or whatever. The people are genuinely lovely, but based on that zip code, she's like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know."
Hedge
So
of
people sort of
protection.
get
Pray a hedge of protection around you.
yes, yes, absolutely. The umbrella of faith, the whole thing. And so when this verdict came down, a spoiler alert for those who don't know, there was a video of Fatima's father attacking her and the kids jumping on the dad. And this video can sort of be interpreted in all different ways. Fatima's family was saying, look at those mean kids attacking our poor dad, who was just trying to get our sister to come home. Fatima's friends were going, the dad said he was, if she didn't go to Iran or Iraq, or because, it's never going to stay in my mind where it is, she's going to be in big trouble and it's going to be this terrible thing.
Yeah.
And the judge sort of had to take all of these pieces of information and decide, Can we say the words honor killing? Can we talk about this arranged marriage to an older man during the course of this trial? What gets brought into the case? What can the jury know? What can they not know? Ultimately, my understanding is that the district attorney said in some sort of court filings, we don't have concrete proof. As I don't know whether it's independent proof, we don't have recordings of it or whatever. They couldn't prove anything about related to honor killing or about this arranged marriage. And so since the prosecutor didn't have concrete proof of it, she struck it from the trial and said, you can bring all this evidence, but you can't bring this context. So the verdict came down and the parents were convicted basically on battery charges and not on attempted M charges.
Yeah.
Initially, I was like, okay, they didn't have the mother on video doing that much stuff, but the father got this sort of battery charge. And it was my understanding that he could serve up to 10 years in prison. I have since come to understand that he could serve up to 12 months in prison, is what he's facing. He is currently already served 8 months in prison. What this judge will decide, I do not know. But I was okay with dad doing 10 years, 10 months. I'm like,
and so I want to talk about something that's difficult.
Yeah.
When
yes,
people harm their own children and their children
yes,
survive, the parents often get less punishment. Does that versus
yes,
if he had attacked a stranger,
Right.
the jury might have viewed that differently. And
yes,
sadly, I wonder if the jury thought that Fatima was this out of control teen that needed because so to me, I don't think anyone should ever put their hands on a child
Right.
because
right,
Kathy, if you and I were in the same room and I hit you, that would be assault. But if I hit
right,
my child, that's called discipline. I personally have, and clinically, so when I'm working with people in therapy, if they're using physical discipline, because and if they're in my office, there's a problem. So like, so I'm like,
Right.
so if they're gonna work with me, they have to agree to not, because in my state, it is corporal punishment is legal, but there are restrictions. And
yes,
for me, it just sends a it sends a mixed message to a child. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are struggling with how Fatima or how she stays safe moving forward. And there will
right.
still be a child protective services case. And because
Oh,
these are two separate things. So there's the criminal side, and then there's the
okay.
family and district court side. And they have been found because there are times when somebody physically harms a child and there isn't enough and they don't get criminal charges, but the child is removed through the social services process. And the fact that mom is choosing dad over her child, she likely would not be able to get so I don't know for sure,
Right.
but in general, cases that I've seen like this, when the family is this closed-minded, they don't think that what they did is wrong, the child often doesn't go back. Oh,
Yeah.
she's
Good.
18 years old, good.
She's
Yeah.
18 now. Yeah, she's 18.
And then she likely, because if she was in DSS custody prior to turning 18, in most states, they can continue to receive support until they're 21. Some
Yeah.
states it might even be 26, but they can continue receiving because you know how you can stay on your parents' insurance until 26.
Yeah.
There are
Right.
some states where they can continue to be eligible. They can get so I know in Virginia, individuals that have been in foster care, they can be eligible for to go to community college for free.
Yes.
There are certain things, and so and then I respect like juries. It's people, and you never know how it's gonna go. And I know
Yeah.
people were really connected to this case, understandably. And I personally, I was like, oh, like I wish that I just wanted the bigger charge to come through.
Same.
But the judge, because if they had if they had let the honor killing and the attempted honor and the marriage thing come in, that would have been a huge appeal issue potentially.
Sure.
and then the whole case could have been like so I think they were just trying to present their strongest case moving forward. Ravi, do you know anything about that area? Like the just that area?
So, it's interesting you say that because I've been thinking a lot that like if this was happening in New York or Detroit, there would be like a girl gang in the courtroom supporting Fatima, right? Like people would be like I would feel super comfortable that this kid is going to be fine. Somebody's going to get her into college. Some, progressive, Muslim women's organization is going to pay for her books and her dorm and she's going to be fine, right? And so I do think that community stuff matters a lot, right? That there are a lot of different ways to be Muslim, for instance, because part of what I think is really hard for somebody who's young in general is like all the identity stuff. And then on top of this, there's this rupture in the family. There's this lack of safety. There's all of that kind of stuff. And so, my hope is that it's probably not like only Arab women. There's probably inevitably, I'm South Asian. I can say these stereotypes, but like there's going to be like a Muslim women's like lunch club, right? Like anywhere in America, if you have a public hospital, you're going to get a bunch of Indians and Filipino nurses and like, you know what I mean? Like there's going to be a diverse group of women. Like I have really good friends. If you ever go to Birmingham, Alabama, I can find you really good Eritrean food, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like there are people all over this country in all sorts of smaller places that are ethnically far more diverse than I think a lot of people realize. So my guess is there's going to be a lunch club that's going to take up a collection and she's going to be okay.
And I hope that she finds safe community so she can have safe for her culture. Because I work with people that when they experience something like this within their family, what the parents were presenting as religion, they sometimes go the completely opposite way. And because that's a part of their trauma response.
Right.
And as a therapist, I meet people where they are. I've actually had individuals that had transracial adoptions where the child was African American and the parents weren't, and the child had bad experiences with African Americans. And sometimes they sought me out as a therapist on purpose because they're like, we just want our child to have a positive experience with somebody that looks like them. And so I do hope that she does have a safe community of people, because I've seen people run from their culture or from situations like this happen because it just doesn't immediately feel safe to them.
Yeah. And
no,
go ahead.
I was struck by all the different witnesses. And I think you mentioned this before, Ravi, when you talked about all the different witnesses who came to the stand, like whether it was the teacher or the cop or the EMS people or whatever, it was sort of this rainbow of all different backgrounds, all different races, which leads me to believe that area is probably fairly diverse, even though it's like a smallish town that I certainly had never heard of. But there's a million towns that I've never heard of. And so I would like to think, listen, in my wild imaginings, there's a big group of kids or adults, because somebody is raising these kids, right? Who will take her in and embrace her. And word on the street is that Fatima has grown very close to Isaiah's parents. She sat in the courtroom after it was her turn to testify, and she was no longer, after she could sit and hear the rest of the testimony. They kept showing Isaiah's dad, and next to the dad, you could see like a little sliver of the mom. Sometimes they would show the mom, but what I've heard is that they didn't show both parents because Fatima sat there physically leaning on Isaiah's mom through the duration of this trial, which part of me was like, oh, thank God. If not those parents, I don't know that they're her foster parents. Maybe they've just maybe his mom is just one of those moms who's like mama to the whole neighborhood, you know?
Yeah.
And if she's 18, she would be able to choose where she lived. Or some people can stay technically in foster care, but sometimes they can pick, like, they can do independent living where they live on their own. But they're still receiving, if they do need, to continue to receive any support. But yeah.
Yeah, wait, there's a comment that I'm trying to grab. It went by. In Washington, foster support continues after age 18 and Medicaid continues to age 26. And I will also say that recently I was filling out the FAFSA for one of those kids. I don't remember which one of my children. But one of the questions was something along the lines of, are you a ward of the court or a ward of the state? And it specifically asks if you're in foster care. My son, who's now 20, how old is he? He's 27. When he was about 19, I had enough. And so I invited him to leave my house. And he's like he didn't want to work. He didn't want to take a shower. All he wanted was to drive a new car and like hang out with his friends. And I was like, oh no, friend, that's not how that goes here. So I kicked him out of the house and he went to Job Corps. And Job Corps initially was for kids who were like underserved, poor children. And so I was talking to the Job Corps counselor and I was like, okay, I think like you had to, if you made under $25,000 a year. And I was like, I make over $25,000 a year. He's like, yeah. Does your son make over $25,000 a year? I was like, oh, my son makes zero. My son makes gas and headaches. That's what he makes. And
bills.
So they were like, he is welcome to attend. And it was kind of like sending him to boot camp. They paid for everything. They sent a plane ticket and they sent him whatever stipend so you could bring a bag that's overweight.
Yeah.
All I had to do was drop him off at the airport. They picked him up. They bought him clothes. They got him toiletries. They gave him housing. They gave him bedding. They took care of everything. And he couldn't come home I think for the first 30 days, you're not allowed to come home. You're not allowed to sort of do anything. But then after a period of time, if your parents are willing to have you, you can come back and visit on the bus. It's like a 10-hour bus ride from the Iroquois National Forest to our house. And he could stay the weekend and then he had to go back up there and he hated it. And he used to say, these people are hard to live with. And I was like, friend, you are hard to live with. But a lot of the kids there, Job Corps is open, at least at that time was open from children ages 15 to 26. And they give you food, clothes, shelter. It was idea for kids who were still in foster care if they were over 18. They gave you job training. You got your GED if you needed it. Counseling, like psychological counseling was required. And they taught you a trade.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm actually involved in here is something really similar. And I would assume Washington State strikes me as the kind of place that probably has some of these things, right? Like really well set up too, where it's like, okay, so when you're 16, we start working with you, like what it's called transition age youth, like folks who are in foster care or whatever. And it's like we start like relationships, making friends, hear all the adulting skills, like, sign up for vocational, go to community college, because California, like the pipeline from high school to community college to four-year college, and like a really good four-year college is really good. You just need a little bit of a nudge when you're that age. And so my hope would be similarly, like if she gets into like University of Washington or Washington State, oh, excellent. There we go. So
Lacey Washington demographics, 61.4% white, 10% Asian, 6.23% 3 or more races, non-Hispanic, 6% African American, 6% white, non-Hispanic, and is considered the most diverse city in Thurston County, FYI. That's really good to know.
Yeah. And like, if she applies for college, she's almost certainly going to go to a place, because again, just America is really different than it was 20 years ago. And she's almost certainly going to go to a college where there's going to be a Muslim Students Association.
Oh, sure.
And she's going to be like, oh, look, there are some ladies who look like my mom, right? Who are all the thing and the thing and the thing. And there are other people who are in shorts and tank tops and they're all Muslims and it's all fine.
Right.
And so she can navigate some of the grief and loss and just the normal identity formation at that age, but also the grieving for different kinds of things that she's gone through in this whole situation. You
And
know,
she's young enough to sort of be reparented. I shared before, I've shared on here a couple of times that I'm sober for nearly 30 years now. And I remember one of my early therapists, probably my therapist from rehab, saying to me, like, listen, your mother wasn't all you wanted her to be. Your father wasn't all you, like your aunties, whatever. And he said, like, the AA as a community is referred to as the rooms. And so he said to me, let the rooms be the good mother. Let them find a sponsor who feel like, not a sponsor who is punishing and angry and punitive. Like, let this experience, let this people, let this community be the good mother for you. And I joke that I was raised from the time I was 24, when I first sort of started trying to get sober, till I was 26 when I actually got sober. Healed some other stuff that was going on in my life. I was reparented by people who didn't have my same background, who didn't look like me, who didn't talk like me, who didn't sound like me, because I thought, oh, well, the Black ladies, they'll get me all the way together. But I didn't necessarily identify with them. I identified with people who had similar experience to me. And some of those parents were therapists, because they were like, girl, no. Nah.
We all need people like that in our lives.
Yeah, Dr. Patrice, have you been the good mother in some cases for clients?
So there are clients that likely viewed me, because I have really good boundaries. So
Sure.
I've tried to give clients corrective experiences where I've said, when I truly am, because I tell them, if I'm not proud of you, I'm not going to say it. like if I say it, I really am. And
yes.
So I've definitely had some clients where I know that they looked at me like a mother figure. I really talk about people almost reparenting themselves, because I think that's really empowering, them giving themselves what they need. Because if their insurance changes, or if something happens and I can't be that person in their life, I want to make sure that they have what they need within them, or that they have non-paid people, because I'm a paid person.
Yes.
that they have people in their life where if they're that can support them beyond our work. And so
building community is so important. And I think it's fascinating that, a lot of people are like, social media is ruining whatever, the generations or the world or whatever. And I think it can be if used badly, but number 2 pencils can be a terrible thing if used incorrectly.
And this conversation is incredibly healing for me. Do you know what I mean? And my allergies are acting up, so I am not bawling over here. So like right before I put on, my allergies are just going bananas. But being able to have these productive conversations, because I feel like this conversation is offering the community a chance to see a different perspective, that and I like, because recently there was a judge that said, no matter what, there was never going to be, because justice for Fatima would be her dad never put his hands on her. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That something stepped in before it ever got to that to that point. And in Virginia, if the parent wants to take the child, like sometimes this, depending on their citizenship and all those things, the state might not be able to step in to stop a parent from taking a 17-year-old, because and so that's why I think the parents were trying to get her an Iraqi citizenship as well. Kind of to be able to circumvent any potential issues here.
She was also born in Iraq.
But because there are certain human rights things that are given to U.S. citizens that sometimes people from other countries, they don't always have. The U.S. can't always step in. But I just I truly hope that this is healing. I like when we talk about these cases and we can talk about have somebody like Ravi on that can say those parents did the wrong thing, but that's not necessary. And yes, it's the zombie, it's not like this isn't so that most people aren't going to take it this far. And I loved in y'all's last conversation, parents not feeling like they own children, like that children are
Yeah.
property, and
Yeah.
that that the parents are responsible for like, so that if the child is acting up, that somehow, because a lot of families, black, across a lot of spectrums, the parents still believe if my child acts up, that's a bad reflection on
Absolutely.
Yeah.
as a parent. And a parent can be doing all that they need to, and a child make a choice.
Right.
Right. Because they're
So
still just people, you
yes,
Yeah.
know?
yes,
I was raised to believe that like my sister and I were empty vessels and we were molded. My mother used to say,
Right.
I programmed you that way. You do this thing or you don't do that
Yeah.
thing because I programmed you that
Determined
way.
Yeah.
And I was like,
programmed.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. No,
and
to this
it was,
day, yeah, I would
yeah,
say I also that's very similar for me. Like, my mom is like, "What why don't you think the same as me?" Like, she's constantly feeling hurt because I do something she would not
yes,
do, and I'm like, "It's been
yes,
47 years. It's been 47 years. I came out like this. I did not
yes,
become this. This is not a rebellious teenager thing. I was like this when I was
right,
4." Like,
right.
yeah, but
When
there's
my,
that thing. Yeah, separation, boundaries, very important.
mhm.
So important.
When I was, because I was raised, I was sort of so entrenched that I didn't even think of it as weird or different. That I was just sort of like, it was like, if you broke my mother's finger off and then stuck me in the ground and then I grew, right? Like I was still her. And so when my son was about 6, he had done something because he was always doing something. This child made more teachers cry. I cannot even tell you. I cannot even tell you. And so he was in first grade and they gave him Mrs. Gladstein because Mrs. Gladstein had been a teacher for 40 years. And so they put him in Mrs. Gladstein's class. And I was like, okay, this is going to go good. Little did I know. But so at the first parent teacher conference, or probably before then, she called me in and she said, Jordan has done A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. And I said, I can't believe he did that. I would never do that. And she paused and she said, right, he's not you. And it was the first time it occurred to me like, right, he's not me. He's not me. So when he made those kindergarten teachers cry, I was doing my best. He just is who he is as a human. He's a
Yeah,
fully grown functional adult. He's over there right now. He thinks all these stories are hilarious, by the way.
right.
But the first day of first grade, he got sent to the principal's office before 10 a.m. And I was like, it is the first day of, and the principal, bless her heart, calmly said, okay, Mrs. Gossip, when he comes home, I don't want you to yell and, rant and rave. She said, ask him what his experience was like. So I was like, okay, and so I told my husband, we're just gonna ask him what his experience was like. So I said to him, and I talk about Jordan a lot because Jordan has been on this channel and he loves it when I talk about him. He's 27 and a fully grown functional adult. I just have to keep reiterating.
Yeah.
We sat down and we're eating dinner, and I said, Jordan, I got a call from the principal today, and he's just like, he's eating his dinner. And I said, how was your day? And he said, it's fine. And I said, she called me at, school started at 8:15, 9:40. I get a phone call from the school. And I said, she said that you came to her office this morning. And he said, yes. And I was like, oh shit. And I said, my husband is like, he's clenching his fork real tight. And I was like, I got this. I said, how did you feel about that? Thinking he was going to say, I'm so ashamed. This is so
Right.
terrible. And he said, kind of good. And I was like, what do you mean, kind of good? And he said, well, everybody else had to wait to the assembly to meet her, and I got to meet her one on one. And she knows me now, and she knows my favorite color is green. And I showed her my shoes that light up. And I was like, Jordan, you're not supposed to go to the principal's office on the first day. And he was like, okay. I was like, can we please try going forward to just, he's like,
No act right. 0 act right.
And
Because
if
they're
Jordan,
children,
exactly.
right?
And if he was in my therapy office, I would try to have, when he's doing well, that he gets sent down to like get to have his lunch with the principal or something
Yes.
every so often. But that is
We
that.
didn't have days like that. We no, no. Always doing something. Always. And it's funny because I didn't act out like that until I was like in my 20s and living on my own. I refused to go to church. I wouldn't date Christian boys. And my mother was just outraged. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, she is ridiculous. But when it was my child, proud of himself for going to the principal on the first day, I
Yeah.
was like, he's gonna drive me out of my mind. And so to some degree, I
Right.
get it, right? As a parent of humans, you're like, but we planned. I did a whole Pinterest of what my life was going to look like, and it did not include the principal calling me at 10 a.m. on the first day of school.
Yeah. And
You
that's what
know?
really struck me when I was listening to the mom's interview. There was like a really quick snippet that Court TV
Yes,
played.
I have it. I
Yeah,
have it.
I
I
think I
have it.
sent
I
it to
have it.
you because she did
Yep.
sound like it had that feeling of like, I'm just a housewife. I'm trying to cook dinner for my kids, right? There
Yep.
was an element of that. There's more. It's not the only thing in that, but that did come up of like, this is what my life is supposed to be like. What is this craziness?
And for
I'm going to
me, with
share. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Patrice.
while you're teeing it up, anytime, because I have worked with people that were involved with the social service,
Yeah.
like something happened and they
Right.
needed to either a psychological evaluation or we were doing therapy to work on whatever, if it's anger management or whatever issue we needed to work on. And if somebody's in my therapy office, I come from a place of compassion where it's like, you did the best you could, but the problem is where you're best. If there's a gap between your best and what your child needed. And
Right.
so let's say,
Mm,
because that gap is trauma, is pain,
Yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah.
And depending on how big, because I do think the mom prioritized dad and
yeah.
prioritized obedience and
Yes.
um and I do think that sometimes in very spiritual families, Ravi, I love how you mentioned how they think they are saving their child from the bad place. Like that's what they literally think the child's soul or like their spiritual future is at risk. And that's why there can be these extreme reactions sometimes. And it
Yeah.
just helps me
Yeah.
understand. It doesn't, because to me, what happened is wrong. And I just hope that and I'm glad that there are videos like this out there, because sometimes the victim can feel upset that um did nobody see
Right.
what I
Right.
went through. And so we saw it.
Yeah.
And
We see you, we hear you, we
Yeah.
affirm you,
Right.
Fatima, and all the Fatimas whose names we will never know, whose faces will never be on court TV. Like,
Yeah.
you are heard, you are seen, you are understood.
'cause this
And
is
a
what
bunch
happened
of us
can you
say,
imagine what happened? Because this is what happened outside. Do you
Right.
know
What happens in private? How is she being
absolutely,
treated? Right? Like I have a laundry list of
absolutely.
like nightmares, right? Around how
Oh,
she was
yeah.
being treated at home. Because if he lost his temper, like, and this is why I'm like mad about the verdict is like, if this is what he'll do outside the home in front of like God and everybody on the side of the street, could you
Right.
imagine?
And
I'm
the
thinking
only thing
like she
is if
gets locked in her room with no dinner at best, right? Like best. I'm sure he takes a belt to his kids. I'm sure the
Mhm.
mom and the older sister are trying to like shield the children without pissing off the dad. Like, can you imagine living in a house with somebody with that level of violent temper?
And if there are
Crazy.
minor children
Yeah.
still in
Yeah. At least two.
and sometimes I've seen boys treated different. Now sometimes they're treated harsher, sometimes they're treated better. Like
Right.
I've sometimes seen like there's a major difference between
Yeah.
some of the boys are able to date or like it's not as big of a
Yeah.
deal in some
Right.
families, not all. But they're at least on somebody's radar. I advocate for like a national child welfare system versus state, because
Yeah.
what happens with state, so locally, um I live within 30 minutes of like three different counties.
Yeah.
And what can happen is one county can open a CPS case, and all that family has to do is move 15 minutes.
Right.
And that whole
Mhm.
and it's up to that new county to decide, okay,
Yeah.
are we going? And if it's serious enough, that new county will pick it up. But if it was something that was just being monitored, if it
Right.
wasn't an open case, that new county who
Yeah.
already has all these cases,
And
they
the new school in the new town or county doesn't have the information in the background. If there's a cultural component to it, they don't necessarily
Right.
have that competence or that trust,
Mhm.
right, with the kid. All of that gets disrupted for sure. For sure.
After this verdict came down, the mom appeared on court TV, and she had thoughts that I will share with you.
She also spoke to Court TV. Take a listen.
If you could say anything to your daughter Fatima, what would you say to her right now?
I hope she come back in the home. I hope that I love her. Really, I love her. I need she come back in home sooner sooner.
Yeah. Have you spoken to your husband, Isan?
My husband also.
How's he feeling?
I pray for him. Maybe he get out sooner.
Yeah.
He get out sooner.
So what's next for you?
Me?
Yeah.
Me? Really, my family is easy, you know. My husband, he go job. I'm take care of my kids. I don't have anything. I stay like in the US. I come in like 30 years. I don't have anything trouble.
Mhm.
I do everything, all what they need. But I don't know. My daughter, she like, teenager.
What's the first thing you're gonna do when you get home?
I'll go eat my food. My tea. I miss my food.
Mhm.
And my kids.
Yeah. Do you plan to call your sister?
Yes, my sister.
Yeah.
My husband.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
I was so annoyed and triggered by this video. Wait, now I'm trying to navigate how to take it down. Where's my mouse? Okay, there we go. Yeah, this woman, I was just like,
She has no idea. She has nothing penetrated in terms of the seriousness of what she did. And that's the thing. Like, I have a list of questions for Dr. Patrice about DV, because that was the thing that really came to me, is that she has no idea what happened, right? In the sense of like the way we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And even Fatima's testimony, and the nurse at the hospital, like all of the different people who spoke to Fatima, like the experience of Isaiah and the other kids and what the bus driver, like none of that testimony about the seriousness and the unacceptability of what her husband did seems to have penetrated, right? It's super weird to me, because she sat in a county jail for what, 8 months?
Yep.
Yeah, it was her mask speaking, but it's a mask of such totality, right? Like, it's not just it freaked me out, honestly.
And something that I've seen is when a parent does better than their parent, sometimes they don't see their harm.
That could be it. That could totally be it.
Because maybe, and that doesn't justify, do you know?
No, of course not.
Excuse, but it just kind of helps me understand and not be as triggered.
Yeah.
Because other people have asked in the comments, I don't know for sure what, and so I do not know. I'm not making any allegation against Dad. In general, I'm just saying, an individual that did what he did to his daughter, I wouldn't be surprised if if the mom had been a victim at one point. And
100%.
And there are enablers, and people talked about the older sister trying to protect Dad, and the mom trying to protect Dad, and if they're not in the same home, I'm thinking CPS is concerned about Dad. And they've said, because mom said she wants him to come back home. So I don't, but when I listened to her, I was wondering if Dad doesn't have approval to be around the other children.
Ah.
Any minor, because I've worked with cases, because I know of cases where the
Okay, this tea thing. I'm sorry. I'm having a meltdown. This
What?
Fatima told the CPS worker that her father abused her when she didn't make him his tea. That is literally something my dad used to yell at me about. Now, I loved my dad. My dad and I were incredibly close, but my brother and I called it the India Hangover, because whenever he went to India, it was the patriarchy hangover. That's literally what, because we're snarky American children. Sorry, I just got super triggered by
But
the tea
does
thing.
that come from like a British? Because I feel like, so, and I know, so I have my best friend, her husband is from Kenya, and his mom at night, she would make this phenomenal tea with milk, and I like, she would, and that was her nightly thing. And she would make it for herself, she would make it for her son, for when I was visiting, she would make it for me. But the fact that a child would be harmed because they didn't, I wonder, because in families like this, you can't say no, you can't set about it. And so sometimes I've had to teach kids in systems that weren't quite, but like they were toxic, but not quite, they weren't, it wasn't anything CPS would do anything about. We would find tricky boundaries. And a way to set a sneaky boundary with somebody like him might be, Dad, I know how important my grades are to you. I'm behind in school. Can I finish my schoolwork? You know, and ask my
so smart.
because you find something they want. Now with healthy people, you don't have to be sneaky with boundaries. You can just set. You can just say, I'm busy. I can't do it.
Teapot's over there, Pop. Like, what words I have said to my father? And he sort of looked at me and he was like, oh, right, I'm in America now.
I remember being a kid, and my mother had this whole thing where as kids, we were meant to serve her, which, okay, you're a kid if you want me to go, you know, we didn't have a remote control.
You're the remote. Like, you're
yes, you're the dishwasher. You're the remote. But then in the evenings, right, we would all sit down in the family room and we would have popcorn and Kool-Aid with ice. That was like our thing. We always had, particularly like Friday nights or Saturday night or something, we'd have popcorn and Kool-Aid with ice. And so, or water, whatever. But we always had like a big Tupperware bowl of popcorn. And she would do this hand signal that was like this and this. And it was meant to mean, get me a glass of Kool-Aid, and wiggling the fingers meant ice. And so she trained us that this was her hand signal. And of course I knew, I grew up in that house. I knew what those hand signals meant. But even very young, I don't understand what you're saying. And she would be like, I don't know why you just are not getting it. It's not that I didn't get it. Like, F you, I am a human. Talk to me with some words. I had no power. I had no agency, but I might have had a little bit of that, like, no, what you're not going to do kind of spirit, which I couldn't come with that attitude, but I could just pretend to not know the signal. Go ahead, Dr. Patrice. I see you like.
Go. Sorry, I derailed us with the tea thing. I was 10 years old again for a minute.
So good. Because I feel like we are cycle breakers, and I feel like Fatima is going to be a cycle breaker. And I really have a lot of hope because I think she's the scapegoat, the one who was the problem child, and the older sister's probably the golden, or the, I don't know. Like, I would assume that, because in really rigid systems, you have to fall a certain way. But my mom, so I was raised by a single mother, and when she came home, she needed to find something wrong. Like, when she walked through the door, she was on a mission to find what I did not do. So I stopped trying, because if I didn't try, when she came home, I would just have to clean up all the mess that I made when I came home from school. And so, but when she was so mad, she was like, Patrice, why are you making this huge mess? And I was like, can we talk? And she was like, yeah. I was like, when I do clean up, I was like, you need to find something wrong. And when I do clean up, you say, why didn't you wipe off the oven? Why didn't you wipe off the microwave? Why, like you need, so I was like, I need you to tell me what I do right. So I have motivation to like, to do anything at all.
That is very highly evolved of you. And my brother and I called it giving my mom something to worry about. Because she'll worry about something. You might as well just give her something. And when I say Oh yeah, you got to focus her, otherwise she'll like start worrying about things that are actually important, and that's like no good for anybody because she doesn't know. Like she might, yeah. So like we gave her something to
But
worry
that
about, girl.
those are
Like
emotionally safe children, right? Because there's no planet could I have said,
Aw.
"Can we have a talk?" Those words never came.
I
Are you out of your
know.
mind? Listen, my mother was a straight ninja with a house shoe. You know what I mean? A house shoe, a fly swatter, a wooden spoon. I was not
Technicolor,
taking my
like
life into my own hands. No, ma'am.
I was
No,
I
ma'am.
I was and so I've had conversations because I often share about because I was spanked as a child and
Same.
I've talked to my mom about just like how that caused me to be a people pleaser and caused me to be sneaky. Like that's what I
yeah,
did. Like
yeah.
I just found ways to not get caught. Or if I did get caught, it's like, all right, whatever. But then she realized that really taking my phone was the big like, I don't like whatever here, going ahead because she did the spoon on the hands. Like,
Mhm.
don't take my phone. So then she started taking the phone. But I think having these conversations because I know there are people listening
Yeah.
that might have experienced something similar to and I think that's what kind of brings up. I think that's what comes up for people and not
Yeah.
seeing, justice in the way that you might think. But like I said, but I don't want people to forget that there's like a whole child protective services side as well
Right.
that normally is closed and we won't know
Right.
any updates with any of those things.
Yeah.
It's good to know that. It's good to have that information in my back pocket for me personally, and probably for some people in the chat and people who may see this video later, because it's like, oh no, she's
Yeah.
just gonna go back home and these parents and this whole
10
situation.
months. If that guy gets 10 or 12 months, I'm gonna be so mad. Like,
Yeah.
and that seems likely, Kathy, from what you were describing, that
Yeah.
might really happen.
From what Court TV said. Now, I put up the box that said, "What are your questions for this
Yeah.
case?" And people have questions. I've
Right.
also starred a bunch of questions that were
Yeah.
in the chat. I have 10 on this screen and another 14 over there. So let's see if we can work our way through some of these questions. Christina Anthony asks, have you heard of an honor unaliving not succeeding, and how would the family be viewed in their country? Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, sure. Well, this is part of what ends up happening. Oh, I mean, this is a thing that happens is, and to be, so I think we talked about this last time. Did we? Maybe it was in some of the reading I was doing in the literature. Yes. So this happens. Personal feeling. Often what happens is you get the kid back to the old country. They're still being rebellious. You lock them in a room. You don't feed them. You do all kinds of terrible, abusive things. And if it gets to the point where they've run away or whatever, and it comes to that incredibly extreme crisis point, it is not uncommon for two men in the family to do it. See, this is the thing that I think is important about the honor killing thing, is that this is a collective judgment. Right? It's not dad loses his temper at rebellious daughter and hits her too hard and she hits her head. These are planned things, and these are communal things, right?
Wow.
And so what you could have, I've seen situations where, in fact, I think I sent it to both of you in Baluchistan, which is in Pakistan, but this happens in India and Pakistan often, is that the tribal or community or clan council, the leaders of the community will decide what the punishment is for these transgressions. And like, I mean, there have been some brutal situations. I mean, horrific stuff that has happened. There was a really recent arrest. They actually arrested 13 people. There was a young woman and a young man who were shot. There was a video, and this was a couple of years ago. The video went viral in Pakistan recently, and the government was basically local activists, right? Like, people don't like this stuff, right? Like, I think that's an important thing to remember, is that like 80% of the community is going to be as mad as we are, and another 10% will be like, oh, she's so rebellious, she's a teenager, but they shouldn't do that, right? And then like, the problem being that like this whole communal, the honor is not individual honor, right? that's being offended against by this rebellious child. It's not his personal sense of control, right? Like in a lot of abusive families in America, I think in other communities, you'll see a narcissistic need for control. It's I own you. So that's part of it. But these are communal things. And so maybe the dad kills her, but his brother or brother-in-law gives the alibi so he doesn't get arrested, right? Maybe the two of them go together because nobody wants one of them to chicken out. If she escapes or survives, you've got to bring her back and kill her.
Wow.
Like if she's at a
That's
women's
like,
shelter, this has happened in the UK, for instance, or like literally like girl escapes, goes to a women's shelter, they trick her to come out, and then they kill her,
right.
or they take her back to the old country and kill her. Yeah, it's family disrespect.
Run,
And I think
Fatima, run.
yeah,
Oh
no,
my God.
that's what I'm saying. And so the CPS involvement is really important, and their supervision is really important. The fact that the school was so involved, because when she was 17 and she left the home and the school set her up, that's really important because that guarantees CPS involvement.
Yep.
And my hope would be, I've been thinking, like, feeling my way through this, and this is sort of some of the questions I had about to both of you, but particularly to Dr. Patrice, is like, you can't convict somebody for something they didn't do.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, there's attempted M, right? And that's a thing they were charged with.
Right.
This could very well have turned into,
She had died.
She would have died, right? Like she would have, the odds are very, very good. Because like strangulation is such a indicator in DV situations that like the next step is like unaliving, right? And that happens in intimate partner violence, it happens in kids violence. And so I'm curious if you're aware of like, what do you do as a practitioner or as a community member when you're like, oh, he strangled her in public? Like, what comes next, right?
So I've had people that have to cut off both parents because of one.
Yeah.
So like, they could have a decent relationship with one parent, but the unsafe, the truly like the one who would do the crime, like acted out, that parent, because if they did meet up with, and let's say it's the mom,
right?
The mom might bring dad.
Yeah.
And so I've worked with people that have had to cut off both parents. And my thing is always safety. Yeah. And so sometimes I connect them with local resources. And so if I was working with Fatima, I would connect her, like if she wanted to connect with Muslim or because we have a big refugee community.
Yeah.
Like if there was a resource, a cultural resource that she wanted to connect to, but like I said, if she was not ready, if she did not want to do that, I would connect her with just because we have, so in Fredericksburg, Virginia, we have what's called Empower House, and they offer safety for families, for women. If social services was involved in my state, it would likely be DSS, so social services. But at 18, because I've also worked with people that have been harmed in foster care. Because foster parents have a lot of power. And in Virginia, because I've worked with foster children where the foster parent was like, I don't want to take them to therapy. And the social worker was like, I know. And it wasn't because there is a foster care that's therapeutic where they have to receive services. And this child in therapeutic services, and they were just allowed to just not come. And so our system, like there's so much that needs to be fixed in our different systems, but safety would come first. And I think she was already ready to go away from the family and not turn around. And so I don't think.
And that's what those runaway episodes were, I think, is her practicing, right? Like a lot of DV victims need to try a few times to get their plan right and to really unhook and really come to terms with having to leave permanently.
Yeah. We have a ton of questions. They're pouring in. Okay. Some of them we may have already answered. Julie Martin. Hi, Julie Martin. asks, uh, Ravi, do you think Fatima will ever go back home?
Home meaning her birth family?
I would assume.
I mean, honestly, I hope not. My get like again, just to
Same.
like latch on to that last question, I think because she ran away multiple times, she was preparing to leave permanently. She
Yeah.
might maybe at some point, the younger kids, if they get taken away or are raised differently, there might be a supervised visitation thing that would allow some family bonds to continue. But I hope and pray she stays away from that family for at least 5 or 6 years, because she also, before she could even make a decision about being in relationship with those guys, she has to emotionally unhook and do some healing and some good boundary
Hmm.
setting. Yeah.
That question that I flashed up, I just starred. I'm going to come back to it. Kelly Bobeth, how is Fatima able to stay safe now that they have been found not guilty? Will there be another attempt on her life?
My guess, my hope, and Patrice, I want to know what you think too.
And she
My,
might be able to get a protective order.
that's what I was going to say, is there's probably a like, if you break this order, you will go to prison, right? Like there might be some
Right.
kind of like more than just like getting arrested or whatever, like a very serious protective order would be my guess, that she must have that.
And
She
that,
probably,
Yeah.
she might already have that.
and I hope the state, because sometimes the state
Yeah.
at sentencing, sometimes
Yeah.
it can be a condition of sentencing
Exactly.
or something that's monitored at probation
Yeah.
as well. Or sometimes if social services is involved, sometimes it's a part of the reunification. But she's already 18, so I don't see, because I've been a part of some reunification plans. Because in Virginia, even a situation like this, sometimes the state initially they have to work towards, they have to
Yeah.
offer services, they work towards reunification. But then the family continues to deny, they're
Yeah.
not going to change. And so then they work towards termination of parental rights. She's
Yeah.
already 18, and so there aren't any rights to terminate.
Terminate.
But
Yeah.
I like, I'm glad that she had if the reports of her leaning on her boyfriend's family, if that's true, I hope that she just stays safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was somebody was saying in chat that she's been living in Canada. I know also that she has family in Canada.
Yeah.
Her mother's parents or somebody, there's grandparents in Canada. So I don't know how much safer that is or is not, but I
Yeah.
know her mother was arrested at the border trying to get to Canada to pick up the younger brothers because
Yeah.
that's where the younger brothers have been staying. I sincerely hope that she is safer there. Julie Martin also asked, do you think the father was trying to control her enough to get her on a plane?
I think he saw her at the thing
Yes.
and was like, just lost his mind.
He was
I
just
think that was
furious.
probably in his head. He wanted to get her on a plane, but then he saw her with the black boy and was like,
Rubbing her back,
yeah.
he just wanted to control her. He just
And
wanted to
then he just,
control.
he just lost his mind.
Yeah. Bookworm asked, what are your thoughts about the jurors and how they reached this decision? Thanks.
So
Ugh.
I just, in watching true crime, so radical acceptance. Acceptance isn't approval.
Right.
Acceptance is just not fighting reality.
Yeah.
And so right
Mhm.
now, if it was raining outside, acceptance is saying it's raining.
Yeah.
Torturing myself would be, oh, it's raining again. I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't go to the pool. And I don't have any control over whether it's raining or not. And so the jury, it's
Yeah.
not something that I have any control over. Two things can be true at
Yeah.
the same time. So I wish the verdict was different. And at the same time, it is what it is. And so that's the statement I
Yeah.
use. And it does come from like a Buddhist tradition. It is what it is. Radical acceptance.
Yeah.
And and it's okay to be hurt, but then I try not to stay there. We move on to the next case. Watch something funny,
Yeah.
like a
Or
hug.
go
For
volunteer,
sure.
or go volunteer at your local DV shelter, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
lot. If you
Be
have
the
Muslim
change
neighbors,
you want
like
to see
go
in the
have
world.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Be the change. Let's see. Does Fatima have a no contact order on her parents? How dare you ask that question? Do we know? I don't know that we would necessarily know.
I saw
No.
in the comments that it might have, but I don't know if it's
Yeah.
true that anything was dropped. If there was ever a reason for her to get it back, she would be able to.
Yeah, I would think fairly
uh,
easily on the heels
yeah.
of this case.
yeah.
And also she's 18, so that like the whole world opens up when she just turned 18 in May, reportedly. Monica asked, to some people, religion can be culture. That's all. That's very true. For some people, their religion is their culture.
Yeah.
Joan Brevia, does anybody know if any of the jury heard the rest of the circumstances as to thinking this could be an honor killing? That's a really good question.
And I don't think the jury should doubt their verdict if they find out more information after. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there have been other verdicts that I've
They
been
were limited.
disappointed in, like
Yeah.
multiple other verdicts where information was not allowed in because they look at we give the person, the defendant, they have a lot of rights.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and that's our system.
And we want them to. We want
Right.
them to have rights.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they decide whether it is too prejudicial, like if it's going to make things look too bad. Because I remember the grandma that like a second grandchild or a third grandchild.
Tracy Nix.
Yeah, Tracy Nix.
Yes.
And
Tracy Nix.
I felt more sorry for that jury than this one, because if I was on that jury and then I found out, oh my gosh, another one or two other, I think it was one other grandchild died in her custody, I would have just been beside myself. And sometimes you have to figure out, they have to come to something unanimous.
Right.
And maybe all 12 couldn't say yes to the first one, but all 12 of them could say yes to the assault. And so
Yeah. And it took them a long time. They were there, what,
Yeah.
24 hours or 30 hours or something.
Yeah.
They really, really worked their way through it.
I have so much respect for juries because I have to confess, thank God. So there are no warrants for my arrest or anything, but I've gotten a jury, I've gotten a you should come for jury, and maybe it got lost in the mail. I don't know what happened, but that was before I started covering true crime. Now, if I ever receive it again, but because I cover true crime, I would probably, I'm a psychologist and I like true crime. I'm probably not.
And also just as like your civic duty, like normal people need to be on juries. Normal people with brains and some common sense need to be on juries.
I never blame like the jury. And so that's part of that. It is what it is. We'll never know what happened in that room. This is how they viewed the evidence and the law, and this is how they applied it. Which means that the defense team did a pretty decent.
They did their job. I've been on 3 juries actually. Yeah, and one time I was the 4-person. I got to stand up and read the verdict in court. You have no idea how happy I was. But yeah, it's literally like 12 random people. Like if you're in the supermarket or driving down the road, like look to your left, look to your right. Those could be your fellow jurors. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the way some people process information may be so different than how you process.
Yeah.
It can make you hurt somebody. Lillian asks, raving, are you afraid to speak on this? Oh, Ravi, are you afraid to speak on this? I'm wondering what the repercussions on the father would be if the daughter did not fulfill their arrangement. Scary.
Yeah. Depends on what the arrangement was about. We talked in the first, excuse me, I'm a snacker, I'm a grazer, and like my little tummy was going snack.
It's fine.
It really depends. In the first video, we talked through some like totally, we have no idea what this was about, right? Like why he wanted to marry her off. It could be anything from my rebellious child is going to date a black boy and have black babies, and that's going to be terrible because people are super racist. So it might be that, like a personal thing. It might be a personal control thing, and all the way to the other spectrum where he owes somebody $10 million, and if his daughter doesn't marry this guy, his legs are going to get broken, right? Like it could be any number of things.
Yeah.
And it really depends on, I don't we don't know about the mom's family in Canada. We don't know. Like, it is entirely possible that the mom's family is like, who did our daughter marry? He's a crazy person. We hate this. We left Iraq so our children never have to have arranged marriages again, right? Like, that is entirely possible, right? She might have cousins who are like purple-haired lesbians at Berkeley, and she's going to go live with them. Like, right? Like, we have no idea. Like, the dad could be the rebel in the family by being super violent and traditional. He could be the rebel in the family, and everyone else is like, oh, thank God Fatima got out. Like, we honestly, we don't know.
Never occurred to me. It never occurred to me.
He could totally be the rebel in the family. He could be some, like, everybody could be like, I don't know why Zara stays with him. She needs to take the kids. Like, you know, like, that could be totally possible. You all, we all have crazy fundamentalist cousins, right? Like, I mean, I know I do. Like,
for sure.
Right,
Look, some of them are in their prayer closet praying for me right this very minute. I promise you.
Like, Lauren Matthias 100% has crazy Mormon cousins who are like really intense.
Yeah, everybody sort of has that branch on the family tree. Yeah. Silver Fox 74 asks, is hijab a cultural thing or a religious thing? That's a good question.
Yeah. Patrice, I saw you wanting to.
No. I know. So it just, I think, so I love, so during my training, we went to a Hindu temple. So a part of our training was to reach out to a culture different from ours. Mm-hmm. And it was just so cool because as we interviewed 3 or 4 men from India, mm-hmm. and they all had they were all from different castes. And because one of them was Brahmin, one of them they each came from a different one, but they were but we're all studying engineering. And they had a phenomenal sense of humor because it was just so cool to just hear, because for some of them going to the Hindu temple, it was just like culture. It's like to see people and connect with people, but they didn't really identify with the religious aspect of things. Yeah. And then there were others that were Christian, or that they still identified as Hindu, but they had different religious beliefs. Or so when it comes to the hijab, I'm gonna give it to Ravi.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, I always love to tell this story of so the Muslim world, as we call it, extends from Morocco to Indonesia, up into Turkey and parts, there are a lot of Muslims wandering around Europe at this point, right? And all the way down to sub-Saharan Africa. So the Muslim world is up into China, right? There are traditional Chinese communities that have been Muslim for a really long time. So the Muslim world is really big and really diverse. And the commandment is to be modest and humble and all those good things. It's often the same verses that have been lifted from the Bible, so they would be very familiar to Christians. How that gets expressed is culturally specific, right? And so there are these funny stories. I love this story of how it's like the women's version of the Islamic world's Olympics. You have all the nations walking in, and you have the Saudis in their full black, this. You can only see their eyes. Some of them have grills over their eyes. And then you've got the Senegalese ladies in their skin tight outfits that have tank tops and bright colors, right? So the diversity of dress is huge. And I think this is, again, a really good example of reverse modernization, where when my mom was growing up in Pakistan with a non-Muslim mom, it was you had a scarf over your head, and if it fell off, whatever, just put it back on. And that was considered normal, as modest, normal dress. It's a pair of blue jeans and a t-shirt. That's the equivalent. But if you go to Pakistan now, especially where they were living at the time, women try not to leave the house in Baluchistan because it's super dangerous, right? And the norm in Lahore, where my mom did high school for a couple of years before coming to the States, you used to be able to get away, do that was fine. And then things starting in the 70s and 80s got super, super conservative. And now you wear something a lot more similar to what Arab women wear. And that used to be very conservative and weird and strange, but that's the like spreading, creeping zombification of like Saudi oil money. And then people would go there to work and they'd carry their weird zombie ideas back to what used to be really nice, casual places and now are like super intense. It's really sad.
Where I live now, it's a little bit of everything. There are a couple of mosques in town. There's a big Chabad movement among our Jewish brothers and
Yeah.
sisters. Then there's just like the Catholics and the Baptists and the Seventh-day Adventists. We have a little bit of everything. The
Mhm.
principal at the school, who I've known for years and years, is I think she was like the art teacher. She was some sort of teacher at first, and she sort of moved up through the ranks. And I saw at the middle school that now she's the principal, and she's a Muslim woman, and she covers her hair,
Yeah.
not just her hair, her face, her neck, always long sleeves. Um, but she wears pants, like,
Yeah.
regular, like tight
Yeah.
pants, a regular top. She gets down on the floor with the little kids and she's, rough and tumble, and she speaks English, Spanish, I want to say Arabic and something else. Like
Yeah.
she's a super polyglot, but
Yeah.
she's sort of like every woman, whatever culture you got, you need to talk to her in Spanish, she could talk to you in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you need to break out some Mandarin, she might be able to take care of that too. But but a lot of women in my community, one of my kids' teachers when they were in daycare, I used to be a real estate agent at that time. And I just saw her at this because she just was like a regular brown lady. I never thought about what she was. But then when I went to her home on a real estate call, I don't remember if they were buying or selling or whatever,
Yeah.
her hair was covered and I almost didn't recognize her. And I was
In front of your mother-in-law, your mother-in-law from the old country, you make sure like you're in the
Exactly.
car coming back from your job and you put the scarf on before you go
That
inside.
is exactly it.
Totally a thing.
That's what she said.
Totally a
She
thing.
said it was for her mom. She
Yeah.
said it was for her mom.
Yeah.
Because she's like, "Ugh, it's a pain in the neck. Like when I'm working and I work with kids, but when I go home, I want to be respectful." It's the
Right.
same way I wouldn't wear like a low cut top in front of my mom or a
Right.
super short skirt.
Yeah.
This is a really good question. Monica asked, if you all know a Fatima, what book would you recommend? I'm not sure if that means if you know somebody in that situation, a book to give to that person or a book to read to educate yourself. Go ahead, Dr. Patrice. I see you bubbling over there.
Dr. Ramani is like one of my favorite people, and she
Love.
talks about her narcissistic father and just the impact that growing up that way and past relationships. Like she's just
Yeah.
very open, and so her book, It's Not You,
Right.
because that's about healing from an antagonistic type relationship. Because I've worked with people like Fatima, and the
Yeah.
family told her, "You're the reason our family isn't together.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
the reason your brothers are in foster care." Like,
Right.
they are shamed and blamed, and my client was the victim. I've also worked with some because I know sometimes immigration stuff comes up with this case. I've worked with cases where because of a crime, a relative was appropriately deported
Right.
because they did a crime and
Yeah.
the immigration process went the way it went, and my client was blamed. You're the reason why Uncle so and so, despite that client being a victim
Wow.
of
Yeah.
a crime. And so
Yeah.
the whole it's not, because there can be a lot of self-forgiveness so she didn't. Now, so teens are going to rebel. I hope my child never runs away because it's just not safe. Like
Yeah.
I would rather,
Yeah.
if he's that upset with me and needed respite or needed a break, like I'll take you to Gigi. Like
Yeah.
because I know
Mhm.
we'll have a relationship with a family friend where it's like, okay, you just need to breathe. Now I'm going to schedule a virtual session with your therapist. Like make sure you, but I never want it to get to a point where my child can't come to me. And so that's where I tell parents to fake it, because like, I think she was trying to find her independence. I think she was trying to find herself in the midst of this world and culture.
For
Uh,
sure.
And so those are my thoughts. That's the book I would recommend.
In terms of learning about the culture, this is not about like any personal healing or anything,
Right.
because my whole thing is to engage in a new topic, to gather new ideas, but also to engage in something that's not going to like give me nightmares or cause me to have more therapy or whatever. There's a book that I read years and years ago, called The Girls of Riyadh. It's an old book and it's translated from
Yeah, I've heard
whatever
of that
language it was originally written
one.
in, probably Arabic.
Yeah.
But it's basically in the early days of sort of like social media, there were these list serves, and
Right.
it's these, I believe it's four women who just exchange these emails back and forth, and they talk about what's going on in their lives. And
Yeah.
they're young women, they're living inside the kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the surrounding areas, and some of them have more conservative families and some of them have less conservative families. It's sort of like Sex in the City Muslim edition,
Yeah.
right? And it's fascinating. It's also available as an audiobook. I cannot recommend it enough. But because it's read as though somebody is reading a series of emails
Right.
or, you know,
Letters.
a series of like messages, it takes a minute to sort of wrap your brain around like, wait, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But it's really the stories of the different women, and like nobody is on or unalive. There's no, but you get a real sense of what the culture is and how they think and feel, how that's different from their parents, and the things they have to say and do to like make sure mom and dad are not mad, or the larger family or the mother-in-law or whatever. But it's fascinating.
Yeah, if you have a like if you're like a teacher or somebody like for Fatima herself as like the rebellious young girl in this family, there's this really great graphic novel. It's probably 20 years old now called Persepolis, and it's about a girl growing up in Iran
Hmm.
before and during and after the Iranian Revolution. And what I really like about it is it shows it's a really fair depiction of both the like very serious meta historical like political historical struggle and why this ended up happening and whatever, but it's also
Hmm.
like it also has like super petty terrible character, like people take advantage of that disorder. Why, like some people really believe the religious stuff, some people don't. This kid just wants to like wear jeans and is like, why are you guys so intense, which I think is like also the life experience of like 80% of people, where they're just like, you guys need to chill out. Like whatever it is, like just chill out and relax and like live your
Yeah,
family life. I'm very fond of that one as like a fellow rebellious sort of a kid, because it helps. I found it was always a really great reminder to me of being like, yeah, be a rebel. It's all good. Like that's fine. You don't have to be like everybody else, and you're still going to honor your heritage by being
for
different
sure.
than your parents, right? Or the
For
people
sure.
around you.
And somebody has asked, I think Emily was saying, post links to the books. Once we're done here, in the description box of this video, I will post links to everybody's channel. Also, Ravi, a whole bunch of people are saying you need a channel. I keep hearing like, Ravi needs a channel,
What
Ravi
am I going
needs
to
a
talk
channel.
about? What am I going to talk about?
Everything,
Anything.
anything,
Confessions with a
culture.
neighborhood rebel.
That's what it is. But I will post links to all of these books. Let's see if we can get through a few more of these questions. Um, Rich Auntie, why do you think Fatima's older sister was not already forced into marriage? It's a good question.
Older sister syndrome. And she probably wasn't as rebellious. Like if Fatima's 18, the older sister's probably like maybe 20,
She's
21.
21,
Yeah,
21,
21.
22.
So, you know, one of the things that happens, so she's not in as much danger because she's not rebellious. So she's obedient.
Mhm.
It's not as urgent. And so for her, for instance, looking after the kids, but also if she's working and contributing to the household income, getting a
Yep.
job history, finishing college, those are things that increase her value on the marriage market, as it were.
Yeah.
Right. And
She's probably helping
so
with those little kids too. Goodness.
yeah, and so there's that. And then I think there are some families like elder sister, like oldest daughter syndrome in certain kinds of families, immigrant families, very normal. It's terrible. Don't do that to your
Mm,
kids. Let them be kids. Like it's a very parentified
yeah.
kind of role, right? Um,
Because
yeah,
she might be interpreting
she is. We've
rules,
seen her interpret for the mom with like the restraining order and
yeah,
stuff, and
because
interfacing with the
um,
cops and things. Yeah.
I worked a case where legal system was involved, and I got approval because they they didn't realize that the mother did not speak like she pretended like she didn't understand. She was really good at, and I like how people said masking. Like the mom was good at masking, like she understood, but she didn't understand.
Yeah.
And in my psychological, I recommended that they either get an interpreter for mom, or that they allow the adult sister who is willing, that they allow the adult sister to interpret. Because just that would help, because they were saying that the parent wasn't following through with some things, but I don't know that they fully understood what was being communicated. And so
Yeah.
Oh, wait, the question got away from me. Hang on. Kelly was asking, Kelly can't get right. In my question, I forgot to say to Dr. Barry, can and will those victims ever recover? It's a
So,
really good question.
I am a hope-filled person. Like that's how I navigate this world. And I think people just need support. And everybody's support looks different. So for Fatima, it might just be like a safe, loving space. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean outpatient therapy. There are some people that they do develop PTSD, like they need a professional to help walk them through things. Sometimes to wait until after the court process, because the court process can be incredibly triggering. So I know a lot of people that seek support after, but I always think healing is possible. I even think if the father was willing to change, but I don't think he sees anything wrong with what he
Right.
was.
And I don't think the mother does either.
And so that's the part where that motivation for change, because often in cases like this, the father would be court ordered by social services to do, or through the legal system to do anger management, to do monitored by probation, and they would there would be some requirements. And so we want to turn pain into purpose. And therapists, doctors, nurses, most people in helping professions, almost all of them have a history of something stressful or traumatic in their lives that encourage them to help. My goal is to make sure that those people that help also get their own help, because often helpers don't get the help and support. Like they're really good at helping, but they're not good at receiving that help.
Yeah, you got to fill your own cup first. Let's see. Kelly D, what kind of therapy for those of us that feel they got slaps on the wrist and didn't feel real justice in this case? Happy with the dentist LWAP though. Yeah, that's the radical acceptance I think that we were talking about. It's going to be really, really important. So important.
And
Melissa, go ahead.
Distraction. So moving on to the next, watching something funny, hugging people, talking to people. And I like how Ravi said to direct that into, maybe people donate to a organization that supports individuals in their local area, not even in Washington State.
And I will say, like, refugee resettlement folks are always looking for more volunteers.
And with federal restrictions on U.S. aid, a lot of them are needing
volunteers as well as financial support. Yeah.
Agreed. Melissa Crawford, have any of the jurors spoken? I'm interested to hear if their feelings change now knowing about the arrangement of marriage and the honor unalivings are real and that the judge kept them away. I don't know that we'll ever, I mean, the jury has the option to speak or not speak. They may hold that in their heart forever. Who knows? Like, oh God, what do we do? But they dealt with, go ahead, please.
And I want to give, because my father's alibi said, turn pain into purpose. Dr. Barry, I love that. I got that from Viktor Frankl. He's a Holocaust survivor. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, great book.
Like it's a triggering book. So there's a bunch of trauma, but that pain with no purpose is torture. And so being able to turn it into purpose. Ooh, in my book. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Please. Plug your book.
Subscribe to her channel, buy her book. Absolutely.
How to survive
Turning crisis into clarity. Yes. We will put a link to that book as well.
Right on
Hang
Amazon. I did the audiobook too.
Ooh, I would listen to your voice reading me a book anytime. That sounds great.
Turning crisis into clarity. Okay, I'm adding it to the list.
Thank you.
We're going to have a killer book list after this. This question popped up a couple different times. Is Ravi a professor?
No, I'm just a nerd. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books. My roommates literally had to say like 6 or 7 months ago, they were like, because I got another bookshelf out of storage and filled it with books immediately. They were like, Ravi, most people don't decorate with bookshelves. And I was like, really? Really?
But some people do.
But some people do.
Some people do.
Yeah.
Northwest asks, with Dad's felony, may he face deportation?
He might be a citizen.
Good question.
He might be a citizen.
Who knows?
We don't know.
Who knows?
And also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say if he's, and if it's a misdemeanor, he might not. You never know. Yeah, I think to answer this question, I'm pretty sure Fatima's a citizen, right?
I hope so.
What citizen?
I hope so.
Yeah. And she would be eligible for
what's for like a safe haven
asylum.
Asylum. Yes.
Victim of a crime, even though it was powerful. But yeah.
Are we still doing that?
Yes.
Because I've done asylum evals before as well. Yeah.
Nice. Emily Flotilla gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Welcome to the back room, new members. Yolanda Dodson also gifted a membership. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I talk about Bruno, member for 3 months. Hello, I adore these panels. Thanks. We adore you being here. Wow, lots of gifted memberships. I wasn't even paying attention. Gloria gifted a membership. And then I'm not sure I can read this. Wait, my scrolling is
Cat Randall.
Cat Randall Dustman gifted a membership. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. When I hover over it, like the color changes, I can't see. Okay. Sub Rosa, what if, according to his belief, the dad really felt like he did the right thing? How do you influence beliefs with reason? That's a good question.
It goes back to Lori Vallow. And if your belief is based in harm,
right,
that's when there's a problem. Because I don't and that's where this situation is so hard, because Dad was so reactive. I don't know if this was just DV or if he was really like, it seems incredibly emotionally reactive.
Yeah.
And because might not have wanted her to actually die in that moment. I don't know. So we will never know what happened, what was going on in his mind. But there's that reaction shows that there's a problem.
Right.
And
for sure.
I was just going to say, sorry, it just occurred to me that the things that get you into these situations, like you kind of have to use that to get you out of it in the sense, right? And so I wonder if, and this is part of why a short sentence or just another couple of months, because he's been in for so long, that's part of why I'm disappointed in the short sentence, is that either a longer sentence or come out in 2 months, but you've got supervised probation for 5 years and you have to do anger management and you have to do this, right? Like, again, if he was in New York or Detroit or like a city that I knew, I could reel off a bunch of Muslim and Arab men's organizations that would be like, bro, stop with the beating your children.
Yeah.
We don't do this here. You don't have to do this here. Yeah. And if you keep doing it, your kids will stop talking to you and you'll never see your grandchildren, right? Like, I think that is something that in conversations I've had in my own community, cousins, friends, stuff like that, that is often when, I mean, granted, it's never been a situation as bad as this one, but with like toxic to kind of whacking you around occasionally kind of parents, it's that hinge point of like, and I think we talked about this in greater detail in the last live stream, that like when the girls hit 14, 15, 16 is when they start getting really anxious. And once you you don't really know where on the like better than you to zombie, like where are they going to hit until you get puberty and they're like, oh my God, you can talk to boys and I won't be there and I don't know what's going to happen. And so what sometimes can happen is girl turns 18, she goes to college. Even if she's still living at home, she's going to college, and maybe she's still going with her other neighborhood friends. So they all go together, right? So like all of the girls from the neighborhood high school that their parents, they all, see Dearborn, there are a bunch of different cities where there are very large Muslim communities where there'd be something super
Yeah.
really culturally appropriate. But often what will happen is, again, the girls will go to college together. So the parents feel safe. It's fine. They can go to college together, right? But then she meets some nice boy or a girl, and she's like, oh dear. And at some point, and then she gets a job, and maybe she's got a roommate, right? Like maybe the girl is like negotiating this back and forth, but she gets her own apartment, but it's with a roommate from the neighborhood. So, but then she gets married, and you're like, okay, if I keep being toxic, I will never meet my grandchildren. Grandchildren are extremely motivational, is what I've discovered. I can offer grandchildren to nobody in my life, but they're like, my parents figured that out real early. Their grandchildren coming this way, but they're very motivational because, again, these are enmeshed families, right? And these are people where like lineage and tribe and that feels safe, right? That's what safety is.
Yep.
And it's like, plus children are really cute, especially if you can give them back after a while. And so again, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, these are very motivational. And so people who are less insane, like this guy's off his rocker, right? Like you don't strangle people in public. Like that's an extreme reaction, even for a very conservative person. That may be something in less toxic situations that's really motivational, is that respect and family, you sort of get over that period where you're really freaked out by your daughter, like being an adult and having sexual things, and that freaks you out for about 10 years. And then you start chilling out. And that happens to a lot of people. That's something that's very common in Muslim communities that I'm familiar with, is they get over it by the time you're 25.
And honestly, like there was a lot of tension in my family, like my family of origin. And once I had my baby, despite the circumstances under which he was born, and by circumstances, I mean, I was a single unwed mother, and I was not willing to discuss who the father of the child was. And it was just like hair on fire. I thought you were a virgin. I was like, I'm 27 and I've lived with 3 different boyfriends. What are you talking about? But apparently, there was some scuttlebutt in the family that I was a virgin. No one believed it, but whatever. And it was just like, I can't believe you've done this thing to embarrass me. But then once that baby showed up, it was like, well, she did that terrible thing, but look, I got a grandchild. I got a grandchild.
Exactly.
And, a lot of things got papered over and ignored, and like, yes, she's a strumpet, but look, there's a grandbaby.
Exactly. That happens to a lot of people. And he may actually, like, if just one last thing for this guy specifically, if he owns a business, right? The mom talked about him, he goes to work, etc. Like, social pressure is a thing, right? In the sense of like, maybe people don't go to his business anymore, or maybe people come in and say, so Mr. Ali, what are you doing to make sure you don't strangle your child on the street in front of my child? Because again, and this is the other thing, like, not only did Fatima run away multiple times, she didn't just have like a boyfriend or like whatever. She had like multiple kids who knew what was happening and were wanting to keep her safe. So all of their parents probably know, plus the school, right? So there's also that social pressure of him being like, you better get your act right installed, buddy. Like we've all, like everybody in this town has their eyes on you. And if you want a job, if you want us to shop at your store, like whatever it is, like social pressure can also be helpful in that way.
I wonder to what degree all this publicity around this case would be protective for Fatima and the other kids in that family. Because now, not only is maybe the school looking at you or social services, you think the nosy neighbors are not like curtain twitching hardcore? The way I would be following everything that happened in this house if this happened on my block. You don't even know.
I would. If the kid looked a little sad, I'd be like, you good?
You good?
I've dialed 911. Do you need me to press send? Because look.
Virginia now has, because I'm a professional, I can do a CPS report through the internet. I don't even have to call. I can just.
Look, there may or may not be a neighbor on my block who has some sketchy behavior. also they were running a business out of their home. Now, the business, as far as I know, was completely legit, but some of the neighbors didn't like some of their other behavior. And so they continued to call online and register complaints about the business to
Kat,
get.
I'm going to one up you. So we have a neighbor that has a balloon business where they like decorate they'll decorate for your party.
Yeah.
One of our neighbors said, "Hey, just a heads up, somebody that just posted advertising their business as a registered sex offender." And I was like, "Excuse me? Like what?" Because I know, and I looked, and sure enough, like the name of the business and the name of this person, and I was like, what? And so
Oh
I love my nosy neighbor app because because I will never hire this person.
All the good goss, the like keep your children safe.
I was
Yeah,
like,
look,
what?
I live right on the border between, speaking of curtain twitching, because there's literally a curtain and I twitch it from time to time, is I live right on the border between the really nice, like a really nice working class, but like nice, everyone's lived there for a million years. We all have gardens, and the like crack house, right?
Yeah.
Like the Section 8, but not good Section 8, right? Like
Right,
they
right,
smoke
right.
it out. And it's like, and sometimes people get a little loud because none of these are all old buildings. Nobody has air conditioning. Things can get a little loud. And sometimes you're twitching and you're like, if you don't knock it out, this is my line. If you don't knock it out, I'm calling the cops. Just don't stop. Stop with the shouting. Stop with the tweak. Like, no. Anyway,
Yep.
people, they got no act right.
I'm telling you, there is a small teacup Yorkie that walks down the street on his own on my block, and a lot of neighbors have called about the legitimate business that's running in that house because folks don't like the fact that this dog walks himself. The number of times the local police have been down here to capture this dog that might weigh 3 pounds because they're like, they running a daycare over there too. I don't like all these cars. You know, that car blocked my driveway. Boop, 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 boop. Hello, local police. I'm
People be
telling
so
you.
petty. Like, just walk away. If somebody's annoying you, just walk away. Like, you don't have to get into a shouting match. It makes my roses sad. Don't have your stress, your like stress reaction polluting the area around my roses. They need happy thoughts.
It is
Crazy. B. Moore says, question, in an arranged marriage, what would a typical dowry be? Are we talking a lot of money for a daughter? It's a good question.
Massively depends on the culture and the context. Sometimes it's not even like cash being handed over. Like sometimes, like people like, again, cousins, there's a tradition in India where your parents like buy you everything new when you get married. And so like you get a new toothbrush, right? And like on up, you get pots and pans, everything to outfit your home. And that's part of what, now is that a dowry?
wedding is that? Yeah.
Right. But it's also like a way for everybody in the family to invest in your future, is to give you everything you need to run a home. Right. And so like, so like that. And then sometimes there's just like money exchange hands, right? Or safety, right? Like we talked about last time, we talked about in Afghanistan after the American withdrawal, families that weren't able to get out, if they were involved in the US, in the government that had been supported by the US, there were people who basically a daughter had to be married off to a Taliban fighter if the family was going to stay safe and out of prison. And so they're basically, like shaking them down. It's awful. So there's a massive range. Right?
And also like to mention that sometimes there's choice with an arranged marriage because
absolutely
my marriage was almost, so it's my husband's cousin approached my mom, like his adult cousin went to our church and was like, "Hey, is Patrice interested in dating someone? I have this cousin."
And that's how most people do it once they've been here for a while, is they're like somebody's nephew. You're a dentist. He's a dentist. Don't poison each other when you get married.
We both went to Virginia Tech, but never ever met each other.
Exactly.
And so I say, like, if my husband and I hadn't been set up, because if we were both in the same room, it just wouldn't have happened. Like, and there's nothing wrong. It just like,
right.
He would have never come up to me. Yeah. I don't know. Because he's 3 years younger, but he's very mature. Like And we met when I was already licensed. And so that sometimes with arrangements, there can be choice. No money,
It's an
nobody.
introduction, no pressure, just an
But he got
introduction.
you. That's
Exactly.
what more could he possibly want? What more?
I am expensive. So
Same
Know your
girl.
worth.
And
Know
high
your worth,
needs.
girl.
High needs, high maintenance. Absolutely. Carissa H asks Ravi, is this an issue in this culture and is it hidden? I don't even want to think how many more families may be in a similar situation.
Oof. Yeah, like I think part of what's hard, we were talking about earlier, is you kind of don't know if you've got the more, we have the funeral potato scale, right? Like sociologically highly valid, works for all cultures at all times in all of history. But it's like if you're in the better than you camp, and there are way more, proportionally, there are a lot of better than you Muslims because a lot of countries with large Muslim populations have had a lot of civil unrest for a variety of reasons. Like, don't invade other countries. It fucks everything up. Right. So that's a problem. Bangladesh has had some problems. Pakistan is a hot mess. I'm allowed to say that because I'm Pakistani. It's a hot mess. Right. And so you have a lot of better than yous because people are conservative and they're afraid, right? Because they're afraid. And so we talked about at the beginning of this conversation that sometimes the things that make sense, the things that make sense in a war zone or in an area with a lot of crime don't serve you when you're living in the leafy suburbs.
Yeah.
And sometimes people let go of it and sometimes they hold on to it. And that's really hard. So it's very hard to know. And I do think it's important, so there's a large bunch of better than yous. And until the girl gets to puberty and starts getting to the 15, 16-year-old, maybe she'll be dating if she's a normal American teenager. You're in that thing. You kind of don't know where on the better than you scale your parents are. And you don't know who's going to be a zombie necessarily. Because I know I could name half a dozen Arab men of a certain age that look exactly like this guy. They own a dry cleaner. They run, they drive a cab. They're a doctor, and they look kind of grumpy all the time because dads are like that because they, their feet hurt and their kids are annoying. And they look kind of grumpy. Maybe his English isn't great. And 4 out of 5 of them is perfectly normal. And then there's this fool, right? This is unfortunately something that's very hard to predict, right?
And I think even within Christian families too, where if they find out that it's normally the daughter, they always freak out if it's the daughter, and but that's our patriarchal that. Yeah. It gets to be a bit problematic. Or I've worked with people across the spectrum. If it's interracial, where people will freak out either on their child or on the other person.
Yeah.
If they
and think of the history of lynchings in this country, right? A lot of the honor killings that you see back in India and Pakistan are interracial or intercaste or interreligious. Yeah. And I've seen that in my own family. I mean, horrific stuff, right? The Hindu group and the Muslim group the elders all get together and say, these kids have transgressed, and both communities decide we're going to string up our children. And I'm not joking. This is not an exaggeration. This is a thing that happens.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Romeo and Juliet. This is the other thing. We talked about how Muslims, we don't have funeral potatoes. We have kebabs, right? We all love grilled meat. We're all in love with love because love is such a theme in our scripture, right? In a lot of the stuff. And so every Muslim culture from Morocco to Indonesia, up and down, we all love stories. Stories. So the idea that you would there's also something really screwed up and outside of the norm when you hurt your child because of love, because of romantic love. Because everything, including the prophet's life story, Kathy doesn't know the story. Kathy, do you know the story? Okay, so he's young and hot. I'm not even joking. This is kind of how the story gets told. And so he's working for his uncle or his cousin or somebody, and this cougar lady named Khadija checks him out. She's like, you should come work for me. I could pay you better. And then she's like, you seem nice. You seem smart. And she marries him. And she's like 15 years older than him. And all of early Islam is bankrolled by this incredibly wealthy merchant woman who married Muhammad.
Wow.
Really?
I hope I haven't offended anybody, but that's literally the story my parents told me because they're super, liberal and whatever. But that's literally
Wow.
the facts are all correct. The facts are all correct. The
Right.
FACTS are more or less correct. The facts of like the color that I'm giving that she's a cougar. I mean, that is
Yes.
she was 10 to
Oh
15
my
years older than him. So like
Oh my
even
God.
Islam, like there's a love story at the core of the Muslim tradition, right? Like there's
Wow.
all of our poetry and literature is all about love, right? Even the relationship of faith is all about love. You're drunk on love of God, right? The mystical traditions of the Sufis and whatever, it's all about love. So there's also something like very, like, Patrice was talking about this earlier, that like faith should not harm you. If you're like harming somebody else or yourself, like you're doing it wrong, right?
Right.
And so like
Right.
similarly in Islam, we've had this like spreading zombification that has resulted in a lot of dislocation, a lot of unrest, a lot of fear, and people have become like more zombified over time. Whereas if you look at our traditions, they're very beautiful. They're very Muslims tend to really love beautiful things in their homes. So it's a lot of like carpets. Like if you go to an Islamic museum or a museum of Islamic art, the one in DC or the Met or wherever, you'll see a lot of really beautiful tile work and textiles and like books. Like we're very into like we're big nerds. And so exquisitely painted, love stories, right? Or like carved wood and things like that. So it's also like, my hope is that like this too shall pass, right?
Yeah.
Like our Mormon brothers and sisters are going through it. A lot of corners of Christianity are going through it. It's a tough time for humans in general. But the hope is that like we sort of come out the other side of that eventually, because there is this huge tradition of really, really beautiful stuff.
And the reason why
sure.
for any one religion to get the negative side of it. So when I attended that Christian university, I experienced some of the most racism and horrific, and so and to me, if you love your God, I want to feel your love. And
Right.
if I'm feeling hate, I feel like there's something you're doing this wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's why with I don't have Christian anywhere on my website, on anything like that, because in people's minds they would have an idea of what that meant. And so I work with people that you could not look at them and know what they believe, how they feel. And for people that wear a hijab, because so I live in Northern Virginia, and we have so our school district, we get Ramadan off. They send something out where the kids that are fasting during the day, the teachers can send like snacks home with those kids to break fast. And so like we live in a very liberal, because we do all the Jewish, like we do Diwali, like we do all,
so do we.
all of the holidays. And so with that, and I love that I get to teach my kid about other cultures, other religions, other belief systems, because I think that's how we break stigma. Because what we see on I don't want people to see this story and to think this is Islam, because I don't think I don't think he's the representation of what. Because
he's not the representation of anything good.
Except his own.
He's not a good representation of cab drivers. He's not a good representation of fathers, of Muslims, of anybody and anything, not even Iraqis.
And people of color, when something happens, it often reflects back on their community. And so that's why I like talking about these things, so we can point out, hey, this is how this doesn't align. And this is how like some people in this community do believe this. And this is a problem. that needs to be addressed. And so, because I love having these conversations. This has been fun. I need to start wrapping up soon.
I know, man.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
There's a couple. There's one quick thing that I wanted to throw in here because we've gone so long. I never go over an hour, and we're
No,
almost at
we
2
can
hours.
talk anytime you want. I'm happy, like anytime. I'm not
On
going to
your
have a channel,
Ravi. You're
I'm
going to
not
have a
gonna
new
have my own
channel.
channel.
Ada K says this trial has opened up a new world on this topic. How has this trial affected your thoughts on the culture? I think we covered that a whole lot. But
People
the
are a
fact that
hot mess, whoever they are. Hot mess.
the fact that we're having a conversation about this topic and culture, I think means everything. Like that's the transformation. That's the pain into purpose that has happened here as it relates to this. There's so many more, like Ravi, Ravi is all of our sister. I love it. And last, what a powerhouse panel of educated women. I feel so blessed to be here and take in all that you ladies have shared. Thank you so much. I could not have said it better. Many, many thanks to our amazing guests for a very, very long live stream. My whole family is getting restless. They're like, can we make noise now? You guys have lives aside from this, I know. Thank you, everybody who watched us and listened and tuned in, and everybody who's on rewatch. I will absolutely post a link to all the books that we mentioned, as well as the video that I shared. I will post a link to that video as well. Many thanks, everybody, and really have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday.
Anytime. I'll see y'all in the comments.
Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dear true crime friends, we clutch our pearls and laugh again. We all gather around. Kathy has a story to tell, our favorite comedian. Heifer, please, I don't have the free time unless you got the scoop again. Here for the gossip, rumor, and innuendo. I will live for today until the endless heaven buffet takes me away. They like people to kick the bucket from Idaho, Iowa, and everywhere in between. Heifer, please, boncation in the first degree. Heifer, please, come solve the case with me. Here for the gossip, rumor, and innuendo. I will live for today until the endless heaven buffet takes me away.
Come here, not Spike. Come here, bye, not Spike.